Hello everyone, welcome to a tutorial video on creating add-on vehicles for RedM. Today we'll be making what we call an iron horse. This can be any type of land vehicle, just brings variety to the world of Red Dead, and we will cover porting the vehicle to RedM from start to finish. You'll first need Red Dead 2 and RedM installed, along with GTA 5 installed as well. This is for RPF Explorer to work properly. I'll be using Blender 3.6.0 and Katos RDR Solemns. You will also need the Codewalker RPF Explorer. The script for the vehicle I've already made for you. You can find it linked in the description here or directly on GitHub. The first thing we need to do is locate a mod that we want to port over to RedM. For this tutorial, I'll be using the Vapid Flavor add-on mod by John Doe 968 and Mad Roger here on the GTA 5 mod site. I went ahead and already downloaded this, so we'll go to the folder it's in and extract the zip files into their own folder. Once we have that, we now need RPF Explorer to explore the DLC RPF and extract the car files or the model files that we need for Blender. So once we open up RPF Explorer here, we will go to Open Folder and navigate to the new folder we created. Now we'll be able to get inside the RPF, go to Levels, Vehicles RPF is where we will end up. This is where the car files will be. Let's go ahead and extract those, take them, and put them in the original folder as well. And now we need to export those as XML files. So let's head back over to the original location in RPF Explorer and find those three files that we just took out of the DLC RPF. We'll go ahead and export those as XMLs and select the folder that we're in now. Make sure to be in edit mode for this. Alright, we'll see that we have some texture files. Now this particular mod did not come with the texture files that we need for the glass to look correct. We'll be using a DDS file from a different texture dictionary and adding it into the one we're creating. This won't be covered in the tutorial, however I do have a download for that linked in the description below if you just want to get your hands on the texture dictionary itself. But now that the car files are ready, we can start by opening Blender and clearing the collection of things that are already there. Let's go to File, Import, Codewalker XML. Make sure on the right side to uncheck Join Geometries, uncheck Split by Bone. Let's import the HI version of the XML. And the first thing we can do is delete the square collision box. It won't be needed in Red Dead since we're pasting this over a vehicle anyways. That's just for camera collisions. I also like to scale the vehicle up by about 15%. Red Dead seems to be a little bit bigger than GTA, so we have to hit Control A there to apply that transform, and we have our car. The first thing we want to do is start expanding hierarchies, expanding these drop downs so that we can expose all of the models and meshes. We are doing this to first hide the collisions so we can work on shading, and then we'll be returning to the collisions later after that's completed. So let's go ahead and get the rest of these. And once we're done, we select the bottom one, head on back up, select everything, and then hit H to hide all of the collisions. Once we do that, we can get into shading, colorizing, and customizing this vehicle. Let's go ahead and drop down the drawable model and head over to the shading tab. Once everything loads in, we will get this pink looking car, and that's because Blender needs to be directed to the texture folder that we had earlier. There's a couple of ways to do this. I use a Python script to define a new base path. If you need this script in a copy and paste format, please do let me know on Discord. Find my Discord on silonugget.com. Alright, so once we run that script, we'll come back and we'll see not everything is pink anymore. We have some pink left over and some textures popping in. Let's go ahead and expand the drawable model on this tab as well. We can see there's over 20 parts associated to the model, and here in a few moments we'll be exchanging each material on these parts for different material. that works better in Red Dead. First thing we actually have to do is locate which one of these is glass. So since 11 is glass, I'm going to select everything underneath of it and create a new shader material for it. That's under Solemn's Tools. Let's go to Drawable, create shader, type in default, and we'll see default spec is listed there. Let's convert to selected, and the first 10 parts of this model are now a default specular. Here in the node tree, we can change this to a different value, make it shinier or not as shiny. For now, we will leave that as the default value of 100 and move on over to the orange box located within this node. As you can see, there's a drop down here that will let us select the texture and color of the vehicle. So right now we're looking at the undercarriage of the vehicle, trying to find out which one we like, which one we want to choose. Some of these don't have previews, that means they're not valid, and we'll have to change those into something that has a preview like this. Kind of looks a little rusted. It's a nice rustic look, so I'll keep that, and we'll move on to the next one. So now we have it all matching. That looks pretty good. And piece by piece here, guys, we're going to go ahead and remove a lot of the pink. We'll get some valid textures in here, and we'll get the car looking good. So let's change this to green. That looks pretty cool. Now, there's really not a wrong way to do this. So as long as your car is not pink at the end of it, have fun with it. Choose some random stuff. That's what I'm going to be doing here. Is just going through the rest of these 10 and selecting a texture file that looks pretty good. So we have this tire here. I didn't really like the way that looks, so let's change to one other. There we go. Alright, once all of that is done and we've arrived at the glass, we will need to make this glass material a specific material in order for it to show up properly, and then we will also have to use some vertex paint to get it to show up. So the first thing we're going to do is make the material correct, and that's glass spec. I usually have good results with this material, so we'll go ahead and use it on this one. So as we can see, these glass windows don't actually exist in this texture dictionary, so we'll need to use something else. In this case, I utilized a different modification that had a texture dictionary with this file in it, and we'll be using that texture file for the material of our glass today. Now I am noticing a duplicate here on the windows. I will be deleting the duplicate as I'm only going to use the inner glass portion for our windows. The last step for our windows here, we're going to click on the sculpting tab. Let's go and use the drop down here for vertex paint, change the radius all the way up, and click and drag your mouse over the windows and get every vertex painted up so we'll be able to see them in the shading tab. So once we go back to the shading tab, we'll see that they're on there, but they're not very dark. So we're going to need to do some UV editing and change these to a darker portion of the UV. Drag those down here and come back to shading. Now we see that the glass is visible. It looks close enough to glass to be correct. For the rest of the model, we're going to repeat the same steps we did for the first 10, and we're simply going to change all of the materials to default spec. I found this to be the easiest and fastest way to complete the car. However, in game, the darker textures do appear a few shades lighter, so darker colors may not work with the specular that well. However, again, it's just the fastest way to get it done. So I'll go through the rest of them now and change it to colors that I find interesting. Feel free to customize it however you want to if you're following along, but let's go ahead and get the rest of these changed up. So we have our car looking good. The next thing we need to do is drop in the collisions and then export the model. So if you guys remember earlier, the collisions are the things that we hid from view at the very beginning, so that way they didn't get in our way. Now we need to go through and unhide them. So just give you an idea, that's all of these hidden items within the hierarchy we hid earlier. If we hit Alt H on our keyboard, it will come back and unhide from us. Over in layout, let's first save a copy of this, because we're going to come back to this blend file as we have it now for wheels. So we're going to title this Get Wheel here. And we're going to come back and get the wheel later. For now, we're going to delete the wheel and all of the collisions related to it. Let's go ahead and find that wheel, get that deleted. Alright, I'll come back here in a few moments to remove the rest of the wheel model. For now, I want to remove the armatures and modifiers from the existing model. In order to do this, I do have another Blender script that I utilize to remove those modifiers. So we'll go ahead and run that script and head back over to the Layout tab. And we see that everything is now unmodified and ready to go. Alright, so let's expand the drawable here. Let's create a new drawable out of this skeleton. Collisions here, I'm going to remove most of them. I'll leave one in there so that way I know where it is. And all we have to do now is transfer the poly meshes that are above this model into the bound geometry below. So we'll go ahead and get that done. So again, guys, don't bring the wheels down there. The wheels are going to be duplicated in RedM, so we will do the wheels separate. And don't worry about the wheels. For now, we just want the doors, the windows, the bumpers, everything like that. Another thing to keep in mind is to avoid this low LOD. It's too bulky. It doesn't really fit the model correct for it to be a drawable. So avoid the low LOD stuff. Alright, so we got our collisions dropped in. Next, we're going to take a look at the collision material, make sure that it is Red Dead compatible. In order to do that, let's just make sure that everything is down there. I'm going to drag a few more items down there and just have everything in one place. The collisions are now organized in one place, so we can go back up and delete the top portion of the hierarchy and clean it up. There we go. The next thing we need to do is open up the Collision Tools tab, go down to Create Collision Material, and we will be replacing the collision material on the existing mesh. For all of the metal pieces, the best one to use is Car Metal. And then you'll see as I go through here in the Shader tab, it'll tell us what it currently is. A lot of the collisions are already correct, but keep in mind there's a few we want to change over back to Car Metal. For all the glass, we need to change each pane of glass to a different material for those collisions. The name of that material is called Glass Shoot Through. Glass Shoot Through. Go ahead and select that one and clear and create on each pane of glass for that. material, and then for the metal, like I said, car metal. And we'll go through the rest of these collisions here. Alright, this model actually has a few too many collisions, so we're going to want to take those down to reduce the stress on the game. We're going to delete everything that isn't a bumper or fender, and we already have the main collisions taken care of, the main body shell, so we don't need anything underneath of it. So we'll go ahead and remove all those. We'll also remove the original item we left in here. Definitely make sure to take out that original bound poly mesh and just keep the new ones we drug down. Once that's done, we can select everything and create a Y type. Let's go ahead and create that. Click on auto create from selection. Let's go ahead and export this into any folder that you choose. I like to make these my attempts, so I'll have attempt 1, attempt 2. So we'll go ahead and export that into any selected folder. And then we'll save this model as well as our exported model. Saving the exported blend makes it easier to come back and change colors or textures down the line if you want to. For now, we're done with Blender. Let's go ahead and close that out and head back to RPF Explorer. We're going to do the same process from before, but this time we're creating a regular YDR out of an XML. So we're back in the original folder within RPF Explorer, and here we can see my attempt 1 folder at the top. We're going to go ahead and get into that, and we see the XML file that was just created. Let's import the XML into this folder. So once we click on that, we see we have just a regular YDR. You can make sure that the item will work by double clicking it. It'll pop up and render it in for you. As long as it renders in, you should be good to go. Go ahead and throw that into your RedM folder, and there will be a syntax you can use in command prompt to convert that to a RedDead drawable. Once we've done that, we are completed with the drawable, and we can move on to converting the texture dictionary. This part I've heard is optional. I've never had a problem with converting it. I've heard that you don't have to, so it's completely up to you. But I'll be converting the texture dictionary as well. This is where we can return to the blend file for the wheel. Let's go ahead and open that up, and we'll be doing a similar process with the wheel that we did before for the entire car. It'll be a lot easier because from here all we have to do is delete everything except the wheel. And then from there we just texture it like we did the car. We center it and we'll export it. So now we have everything we need to assemble the mod. Let's go ahead and enter the resource folder, and inside the stream folder we're going to be dropping everything that we created here today. That includes the _NYA YDRs and the YTD from earlier as well. After that, we're going to make sure the naming and the Y type is correct. We'll simply drop it into our RedM server and test it out. Alright guys, I got kind of carried away on the naming of this resource here, so just a reminder, if you'd like the fully complete mod, you can head on over to the download in the description here, and you can find the Y types and everything the way I named it at the end over there. Now it's time to launch RedM and test out our new vehicle. So I have an open field here. I'm going to go ahead and type in the spawn command. And as we can see, the model is loading in perfectly. Our wheels look a little funny, but that's okay. Make sure collisions work by shooting at it a little bit. And that's it. If you were able to make something cool using this tutorial, please drop a comment. Let us know what you made and how it turned out. So that is it for this tutorial. Thank you for watching. I also want to thank the developers of the tools that we use, Solemns and RPF Explorer Codewalker. Huge shout out to them. And thank you to those that came before me, shared knowledge. This tutorial would not be possible without you. So I wish you all the best. Take care. Until next time.